Ladies and gentlemen, this is internet personality Vangelus catching a magical downwind from HLJ that has manifested as my first taste of SH Figuarts wizardry. This is the Infinity style of Kamen Rider Wizard, and if it wasn't entirely clear, he's my first Figuarts experience from that series. So if there are improvements or losses from the other, 8 wizard figures, I don't know about them. But holy friggin' damn, dudes! Straight off, I gotta point out the gorgeous crystal effect that covers the Infinity costume. Every jeweled surface is clear plastic over a shiny undercoat, and it looks absolutely cash money. I mean, look at his head. Look at it! Look at it! Please! Diamond gushing aside, the suit sculpt seems pretty on the mark. Everything's doused in this lovely combination of silver and gunmetal paint, which makes all the colorful details pop hardcore. The collar, crest, and wizard driver are super tight in sculpt and paintwork, and the bandolier of wizard rings is one of the finest Figuarts accoutrements I've seen in a while. It's a shame the amber rings couldn't get some extra sculpting in like the style change rings did, though. But I also didn't get that far into the series, and it turns out there are a billion of them, so I guess I see where they're coming from. Speaking of rings, my one and only issue with the sculpt are the rings on his fists. They look comically thick, jutting out from Wizard's knuckles about twice as far as I'd have liked. I realize there's a way to excuse this by citing real-life proportions, but I doubt many would have minded these being about half as beefy. The diameter is fine, it's just the huge protrusion factor that I find incredibly distracting. I'm just going to preface this preciously professional coverage of posability by saying that, as I mentioned before, this is my only Wizard Figuarts toy to date as of this recording. Maybe I get another one later, who knows. But with that in mind, I'm not sure if anything about this guy is unique to Infinity style, or if this is just the Wizard Figuarts in general. So, it's been said, let's talk about the weird thing on this guy, which is his neck joint. So he's got what looks like a normal Figuarts neck assembly, except I guess due to the size of his helmet and the size of his collar and the depth of his collar, the thing can extend like this. And it's got like, I think a double joint, like 2 pin disc joints united in there. It's kind of cool. It can look kind of weird if you don't know what you're doing, like me most of the time, but if you know how to play with it right, you can get some pretty good poses out of this guy that give him a range of neck motion that I suppose would have been otherwise greatly hindered by the design of his suit. His torso has got some pretty decent range as far as leaning back. Going forward, not quite so much. Turning side to side, hey, do as much as you like. The jacket is, I think, pretty good at getting out of the way of stuff. It's not really, like, on any kind of severe friction hinges so much as it is just really good at flexing out of the way, and it's segmented and cut in a way that feels pretty natural whenever I'm using it. Like, it's got 2 major splits here and a small split at the bottom, which I believe is show accurate. These splits, I guess, might wig some people out, but to me, they're cut in just the right way where usually the legs are covering up the split. So from behind, yeah, you might see stuff, but up front, hey, whatever. And there's enough layering for them to kind of, be calm or to be out and billowing slightly. It's a pretty decent long coat design. Turns out better than Deneb did way back in the day, although his was also coming down in front. The hips are Figuarts Hipsin hips. They do that, so as you can do that. Yeah. There's a thigh swivel up there, too. There's a double knee joint with a really beautiful kneecap piece. The ankles appear to be the current modern Figuarts ankle. There's a little bit of hindrance here and there due to the design of this anklet, but it's nothing that I've had trouble dealing with. Mostly it's a case of you can point the foot like that, but you can't push it any farther this way. The toes are going to be something I talk about after I just mentioned, check out all this crazy detail and whatnot. I never actually finished watching Wizard. It's on my to-do list for 2014, but I'm sure in the show he can toe. Just a little bit, but just enough. Let's come on back up here and talk about his wrists with his big, cartoonily goofy, huge rings. They are Figuarts wrists, but they're way better at bending this way than palm in, mostly because of the sculpt of the hand and the sculpt of the wrists. Like, no matter how I really orient this, that'll happen more often than his hands will bend inward. It's not a big problem, but it's worth noting. He's got double-jointed elbows. Yeah. He's got bicep swivels, yeah. He's got your usual Figuarts setup for shoulder posability, with a little bit forward and back, a little bit of that and that. His shoulder pads are very classic Figuarts. They're kind of flappy on a hinge. These things are actually real good at popping off, and they're by far the weakest part of the posability on this toy, because they will pop off pretty easy as soon as he starts getting his arms going outwards and things just bump the wrong way. And I've said it before, I'll say it again, having messed with stuff like Black Renewal, seeing this just makes me go like, man, these are the old days, and I think they need to end soon. I just see how this is mounted on here with this this light gray inner piece that is literally kind of blockaded inside between parts of the shoulder joint assembly, and I'm like, if that were over here, where there is already a cut for the pin disc joint, I could have done with that being over here, and the shoulder pad just having that superior aesthetic motion, as opposed to what is something from, you know, the old days. I feel horrible saying this. The old days of a year or 2 or 3 ago. Anyway, this guy's posability is pretty good. I haven't found it to be really that badly hindered anywhere. And aside from the shoulder pads, nothing's really annoying. So hopefully that was the case for all the Wizard Figuarts toys. I hear it probably wasn't entirely the case, but someday I'll get Flame Style and I'll find out for myself. One upside of having such massive corn poppers on your knuckles is that your punches will hurt. Wizard Infinity has got some fists that look like they could take a divot out of an eye socket. A sometimes missing analog to Figuarts fists are present here, as you get a pair of calmly open hands as well. Next up are some open and finger flourishing hands, great for many of Wizard's signature poses, but not quite crazy enough for jazz hands. There's one more Wizard-centric pair of hands which are flat and open, one thumb out. These are great for representing the scanning of a ring into the Wizard driver, which, by the way, comes with 2 faceplates to represent either some Shabba-Dooby Showtime or Lupachi Magic Power. The remaining 2 pairs of hands are for gripping either mode of the axe caliber. I am pretty sure that the one with the more separate trigger finger is for holding the caliber version, but really both pairs of hands have a lot of give. The axe caliber has got a swappable longer blade for caliber mode, but otherwise is a pretty simple accessory. It looks superb though, with great touches of clear plastic and extremely fine metallic paint apps. Also in axe mode, Wizard seems to be holding it by the sword blade, and that is kind of hardcore. Finally, Wizard Infinity has an alternate coattail for actiony stuff. It's all splayed out and swooshy, and swapping it in is kind of a bother as you have to pull the figure in half. While you're doing that, you'll also want to swap in the alternate belt, as it's been sculpted to work better with the action coattails. It's also more swooshy. And hey, it also doubles as a place to stick whichever belt buckle plate isn't in use. I'm glad this was packed in, as I believe this kind of piece was a first-run pre-order bonus on Wizard Flame Style. It's always nicer to get the full package with an Ultimate Rider form. This is his ultimate form, right? I mean, it's hella shiny. Man, after both hearing some poor reports on Wizard Flame Style and otherwise spectating the rest of the Wizard Figuarts releases, Infinity Style is a real pleasant surprise. This is a super solid figure with the right combination of plentiful accessories, strong posability, and a friggin' gorgeous look on the base body. Wizard Infinity is downright beautiful, to the point of being something I'd even recommend to non-Wizard fans who simply think he looks cool. He's well worth your consideration if you like what you see, and it sounds like he makes up for a very weak first showing in SH Figuarts on the part of poor Haruto. Anyway, this has been Internet Personality Vangelus, and now I kinda want to track down Flame Style to compare him to this great piece. Like, I know he won't stack up too well, but I gotta know, man. I ain't got a problem, I gotta know. Knowledge is power, and I want to be the powerfulest.